Welcome back to the Professional Lovers Channel. I'm Al.
I'm Patty, and we are the Conwells, the Professional Lovers. And if this is your first time, we're glad to have you.
Welcome.
And we've been married for
27 years.
Yes, heading toward that 28. And but almost 28 together.
Definitely.
Because we met a year.
We didn't marry at first sight.
No, we did not. We took a good year and a half. But anyway, and during our time, we've been able to facilitate relationships for other couples. And so, when you're happily married, you want to see other people happily married.
True.
And so we talk about relationship issues through the lens of Married at First Sight. So we're assuming that you watch the show and are a fan so that you'll know what we're talking about. Definitely. As we get ready to get started.
Cute.
Thank you.
Didn't
And you're
cute?
cute yourself.
Thank you.
I like the haircut.
Me too.
Okay, this is not about us.
Yes, and not.
It's about them and you. So, Clara and Ryan.
Yes.
We just usually try to go in the order of the couples as they came onto the show. And Clara and Ryan. Clara seems to be still struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
With the different places where she and Ryan are physically and emotionally.
In different spaces.
We know that Ryan feels that, the words "I love you" have a serious meaning behind them, and he wants to make sure that he actually thinks that way so that he can support what he's saying.
Yeah.
We know that he's acting that way. And even Clara says he's acting like someone who is in love, but he can't say it. And we sure were pulling for him at the end as they watched their wedding video. We were like, will he do it? Will he do it? Oh, he didn't do it.
He might have.
He's very camera. He's privacy.
Yeah, he's a
privacy shy.
Yeah.
Like,
when it comes down to emotional
and the cameras.
situations, yeah.
No. But I did say that when he asked her, was, marriage what you thought it would be like when we first got together, and I felt like what she said was sort of mixed messaging, because she said, and I don't have any complaints, and I'm like, yeah, girl, you do. But was this, you and I talked about, was this a situation where she didn't want to kill the mood by saying anything negative
or questionable, or making him overthink things, and
creating a downer vibe,
right?
The way Jacob did with him and Haley, and we'll get to them in a minute.
Yeah.
And you felt like that was a way of keeping the mood
that's what she was doing.
Positive.
Yeah. By just not bringing any negativity into the current situation, because it was a celebration. It was a one month celebration, and everybody should kind of be elevated in there. Yeah.
Although I did say she could have said it still in a way that that kept it positive, but acknowledged the fact that they're kind of on different
levels,
planes.
Well, and again, I understand what you're saying, and she could have couched her words in, displaying promotional growth.
Yeah.
We've had
it's been progressive.
Yeah, we've had our little bumps, and but we've gotten through them, and we're continually growing, and we're learning each other.
Right.
Yeah.
And overall, it's been a great experience, and most of what I've expected. I mean, any of those things, because we've been watching her discomfort.
Yeah.
And we've been watching her almost look like she's checked out here and there.
Yeah.
But,
because she evidently needs that. Not only the physical, but she needs affirmation. That's the manner in which she feels cared for, loved.
Right.
So
So
I believe, I'm hoping that they'll get there. And who knows, maybe they didn't show you all of what they taped last show, and we'll display
find out some more next week.
He actually did say it.
It's very possible. Very possible.
TV.
You know, there you go. Production. Editing. Paige and Chris.
Paige.
So.
Hi, Paige. She's
done again this week. Obviously there's been a lot that we haven't seen, because the clips that they showed of them felt like stuff was missing. So, you know, when they got together for what? Basketball.
Yeah.
They, you know, had a nice conversation. And he wouldn't give details about his first engagement, other than he wasn't mature enough, even though he ain't mature for this one, but he wasn't mature enough and ready for marriage.
So it was exposed that he was engaged twice.
Well, now he knew that she knows that he was engaged twice.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then when they got together, when he came for pool, all of a sudden, as she started talking about the fact that she didn't feel respected, which he clearly has not respected her.
His attitude changed.
Yeah, he started cursing. And basically said, I don't have a connection with you. I have mentally checked out. I don't feel like you do off camera the things that you do on camera. And you know what? We don't know if that's true or not.
True. We
don't know if that's true or not. But when Paige, what stood out the most for me tonight was when Paige went to dinner with Haley and Brianna.
Yeah.
And made the statement, I have questioned whether or not I have fallen in love with the idea of marriage rather than looking at the person to whom I'm married.
Yeah. And we have alluded to that in a number of situations, because again, her propensity or willingness to fight all of the evidence and still try and be available and seem to go back to whatever it can be and have hope in it. I mean, there are certain things that a person will let you know exactly who they are. When they do, you should believe them.
I mean, because he's done that already.
A few times.
And I think that question is evidenced by the statements that she makes, like, I thought that this was my dream being manifested, that this was God's plan for me. And if you're believing that this Married at First Sight was God's plan for you, then you don't want to not follow the plan.
Yeah.
If that's, you know, how you believe.
Right.
You don't want to not follow the plan. And so, you know, some of that, I think, has made her keep putting herself in the same position with Chris time after time after time. And as a spiritual person who has and tries to follow Christian values, I believe that, you know, that God's plan, that God has a plan. But in that, you have to realize that you are God's child too.
True.
I am God's child
He's not
as well.
going to put you in a situation where you're sacrificing yourself.
Yeah, and if the other person is not acting as a godly man,
then that's probably not a godly plan.
Exactly. And so, you know, that's why it's been a little exhausting to watch her do this over and over and over again. And she says that she's done. She celebrated her 1 month by herself, watched her wedding video alone. Producer asked her, what do you do now? I'm going to move forward by myself.
I hope she does.
But we'll see.
I hope she does.
Because every week there's a new twist to the Paige and Chris story. And unfortunately, I don't believe, and we're going to bring just there are a couple of tips that kind of fit this from the book, Becoming a Professional Lover, that we like to refer to. And that is, a happy home is where God likeness reigns supreme. If you and the partner, if the spouses say that they live their lives and order their lives by Christian values, then treating the marriage and the partnership with God values is important on both sides.
True.
And that is the only way that you're going to have a fulfilled marriage. And so it's obvious that Chris is not at that point with this particular relationship.
Yeah.
And then the next one says, what's the other one? That in times where you're having issues, right, that you have to make God your partner and ask him to help you love your spouse. But that's really for people who have been in it for a while and maybe having bumps in the road. It's not really for people just starting out, per se. Yeah, that's the one I just read. No? Oh?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. That was the wrong one.
It was a good one, though.
It was good.
Yes.
But recognize that love, marriage, sex, and family are God's idea, not man's.
True.
And so if you're trying to use man's idea to navigate those things, then you're using the wrong yardstick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're using the wrong barometer, because man didn't create those things. God did.
They were made for man.
Right. Okay, so we're moving on to Virginia and Eric. Eric showed a little bit of his butt tonight.
Yeah.
It was really nothing new, but I think you saw it in a different light.
He kind of irked me a little bit.
And why is that?
Because he didn't ask her perspective. Okay, they're talking about their living arrangements. Okay, eventually they'll move in together. She's indicated that she was very leery about moving into his place. She would be uncomfortable, and she said it in a variety of different ways. And very plain, succinct, and simply in those words, in those terms. I would not feel comfortable moving into your place. Okay. And she even had a couple of particular reasons. And Eric did indicate that there were reasons as to why it would make sense to move into his place.
For a certain amount of time.
Right, for a certain amount of time. This is the mortgage she's renting.
It takes time to sell.
Yeah, it makes that, and to that extent, it makes sense. But the manner he kind of gave her an ultimatum: either you move in with me, or we don't move in. I mean, we don't.
Yeah, it's like,
we're done.
If you want to stay with me, you're going to move into my place. Period. And
like,
I don't know, after the 8 weeks, I'm moving into my place, and that's where I'm going to be. If you want to come, that's fine. If not, then you don't have to. Again, a very rigid, unyielding, threatening kind of way of dealing with differences that they have. And this ultimatum thing of threatening her by, well, this is what I'm going to do, and you can, if you choose to, fine. If not, whatever, you can go your way. That irks me to no end.
Well,
and it starts getting abusive.
True.
When you keep doing that.
It really makes me wonder, even from a male perspective, with all of what you talk about and being in love and you love her and this thing's
it's the best thing ever. It's You've awesome. Never felt this way.
How is it that you're willing to give all of it up, since this is something you've always wanted, you've never felt this before, over a dwelling, an inanimate object? I mean, yes, your home is your home, but you can make home wherever you are, but you can't make a relationship be all that it can be with just anybody.
And it's and again, mixed messaging. We hear a lot of how great they are together. They love each other. They said the L word, blah, 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 blah. But then you get to these different points and he's very, well, this is how I see it. And if you don't see it that way, then we don't need to be together. If you don't do this, then you can leave. Then
finite?
And it sounds like a control issue. It's a rigidity issue. And
it's unyielding. I mean, there's no compromise.
because even with staying in your condo being the most logical decision, to even say something like, well, what would I need to do or change for you to feel more comfortable in my space while we're looking for another place and having to sell what can I do to make it feel more comfortable?
Simple.
What can I do to make you feel like it's ours and not just mine? Yeah. Any of those kind of questions would say, I'm listening to you. I respect your needs.
That you are a priority.
Right. And here we go. And we've said this tip before. Respect each other's needs and ideas as important. And settle your differences by meeting each other's present needs. So I'm a little annoyed with those kind of responses from Eric. And according to the trailer for next week, he's going to be doing it again.
Yeah, but the way it looks, that might be the last time she's going to listen to that particular verbiage.
Now, granted, he did say, when she says, I don't want to live in your spot, he kind of, in his mind, he's questioning, is this another runaway tactic? Because he did say that, she did tell me that this is the point where she normally runs away and basically, because she's scared of the commitment. And so, is her saying this another runaway tactic? And even if it is, are you making her want to stay by saying things like, if you don't want to live with me, then, you can just go your own way?
She already indicated that if she was going to run, she would have ran before now. So I think that she is more than willing to be committed to this situation. It's just, I think her youth is a situation where she doesn't really know how to deal with this discomfort in the threatening manner in which he's expressing his putting his foot down regarding their living situation. And I don't really think it's necessary. But I think there's ways of showing her that she is a priority to him, even if they have to be in that space for a limited period of time.
I mean, let's go back to Claire and Ryan, because they're going through the same thing. She's moving things into his house. It's his house. When they went into the backyard, she was like, oh, can we put up these, not the Christmas lights, but sure. And he did it.
Yeah.
So if you're the one that has the house and you've been living in your house by yourself for however long, you're going to have to open up and compromise to let the other person feel like it belongs to them
that they have a space in your domain.
Yeah, and not just, as Virginia said, I see it as me living in your place rather than us living in our place. Yeah. So that could be an easier fix than what Eric is making it. So Brianna and Vincent, Yes.
'Cause we were on edge. We were thinking that something was going to happen. Somebody was going to fall in the water.
When they were on the boat, I was like, I hope we can get through this celebration without any
Vinnyisms
turning sour. And yay for them, they did it.
Yeah.
They were on point. If you just heard that, that was a dryer. Anyway, they were on point. They had a great night tonight, and we enjoyed watching them.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's really not even anything to talk about with them. So Haley and Jacob, I think, finally got to an impasse where I don't see them getting past. That they're not going to get beyond. Now, they've been doing well. Being friends, cordial, communicating, sleeping in the same bed.
But you asked a question, and you asked what was the difference with Haley and Jacob versus
Jamie and Doug. But first, before we get there,
okay.
At their celebration, they're at dinner, and as they're toasting, Jacob begins his passive aggressive style. As in, I feel like you don't see me. I feel like, when we're in the same room, it's like I'm not there. I feel you have no, right. You have no attraction to me. And okay, so my question then was, in light of that, what is the difference between Haley and Jacob and Jamie and Doug from season 1, where she was not physically attracted to him at all, cried about it
at the wedding,
at the reception, went out in the hall and cried
the wedding and
about
the reception.
it, and yet look at them. It's been 3, 4, 5 years. They got 2 kids.
Babies,
they're,
relocating.
What was the difference between Jamie and Doug and Haley and Jacob, with Haley being the one also who is not really physically attracted to Jacob?
Attitude.
And you said.
I said it was attitude. I mean, Doug was patient.
Ultra patient.
Yeah. And he didn't feel, even if he felt offended, he didn't show it.
Right.
He was committed to the process, and he was willing to do whatever it was that he needed to do to let her get to know him.
And there was absolutely no pressure.
None.
And even though Jacob says, I stopped pressuring, he still pressures with the statements that he makes.
Yeah.
You're not attracted to me. You don't see me.
You're not.
So that in itself is pressure.
Yeah. Why bring it up? I mean, every time you talk about it, it becomes pressure. I mean, And you said that Doug never made Jamie feel bad about how she felt.
Right.
And you can't make a person feel bad about how they feel, because that's the way they feel. Now, if you're willing to put in the effort to try to change that perception of who they think you are, because in this situation, all you're doing is seeing a person. You're not getting to know, you're getting to know them, but it's a process in which you get to know them. So if your initial visual is not all that you want it to be, well, again, give it the benefit of the doubt, because again, that individual that you see is not all of who they are. That's what you see. Get to see a personality, get to see character, get to know the person, because there are some most unattractive visual individuals who have a most beautiful personality.
You mean visually unattractive?
Okay, thank you.
There are people who are visually unattractive.
What did I say?
It's like unattractive people who are visual.
Okay.
Like.
Well.
So anyway, I'm just clearing it up. You're saying visually unattractive people who have beautiful spirit and personality.
And you suddenly don't even see what they look like. That's not what gravitates,
What you
gravitate toward
right.
when it comes to them. It's not what you remember. It's not, suddenly they're a whole human being. It's not just about being what they look like or what they don't look like.
Yeah. I mean, in our society, we can give so much, like too much attention to the physical.
Yeah.
Not to say that it is not an element.
Yeah.
Okay. And not to say that you should not have, that you don't have to have any physical attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, we put too much stock on the physical at the expense of the character.
True.
And so, Jamie did eventually fall in love with Doug.
He broke her down.
And, and it's too bad that Jacob can't handle this situation.
Get out of his own way.
Right, the way that Doug handled his situation.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the tarot card reader that Haley brought in, I think messed with her head a little bit because she was like, Haley, you're a control freak, and and you guys are compatible. Mm-hmm. And she was like, oh really? Especially says, do you find that a lot with other people? No, really, not at all. Okay, then. So.
But I really think this is a self-fulfilling prophecy of what Jacob said.
Yeah.
When she checked out in the very beginning, he was kind of feeling a certain way. He was willing. He wanted to move on. And I guess from how things had materialized from that point, and her getting these little tidbits and saying, well, maybe I do need to give this a shot, or maybe I'll try, or whatever, he is now on the side of checking out.
He's checking out. And that's, things that he said about her, as you pointed out, she didn't deny.
Right. Yeah.
But he's just not giving her the same patient leeway for things to change.
Yeah.
As Doug did for Jamie. So this is what you have. They're at an impasse, and it doesn't appear as though they're going to get beyond that.
Doesn't appear that way.
Right. But you never know what next week will bring. So until then, you guys stay safe. Like us, share us with other people you think would enjoy our discussion.
Yeah. And
we will see you here next week. Until then, peace.
Enjoy and stay safe.